The rogue mechanic started salvaging. Then the ship activated combat mode. Kang Dae-ho wiped sweat from his forehead as he stared at the scanner display. 3 days of searching through the asteroid field had given him nothing but junk and empty space. His small freighter, Lucky Strike, drifted slowly between the floating rocks, its engines running quiet to avoid detection. At 34 years old, Dae-ho had been salvaging alone for almost 5 years now. The corporate security forces were always hunting rogues like him, but he knew how to stay hidden. His ship was old but reliable, modified with extra cargo space and better sensors. Most importantly, it had no tracking devices that could lead the corporations back to him. The scanner beeped softly. Dae-ho leaned forward, studying the readings. Something big was hiding behind a cluster of asteroids about 2 kilometers away. The energy signature was strange, unlike anything in his databases. It showed as both completely dead and somehow active at the same time. "That makes no sense," he muttered to himself. He guided Lucky Strike carefully through the asteroid field. His hands moved over the controls with practiced ease, avoiding the larger rocks while keeping his ship's profile small. After 20 minutes of careful flying, he saw it. The derelict ship was massive, easily 3 times the size of his freighter. Its hull was smooth and curved in ways that seemed almost organic. Strange patterns covered the surface, flowing lines that caught the distant starlight. There were no visible weapons, no corporate markings, nothing that would identify what kind of ship it was. Dae-ho had never seen anything like it. He circled the derelict slowly, taking detailed scans. The hull showed signs of battle damage, but it was old. Scorch marks and small holes dotted the surface, but the main structure looked intact. Whatever had attacked this ship had failed to destroy it completely. His scanner kept giving mixed readings. Sometimes it showed the ship as completely powered down, cold and lifeless. Other times, brief energy spikes appeared on the display before vanishing again. It was like the ship was sleeping but dreaming. Standard salvage protocol said he should call for backup when finding unknown vessels. But Dae-ho had not followed standard protocol for a long time. Besides, backup meant splitting the profits, and he needed every credit he could get. The modifications to Lucky Strike had cost him most of his savings. He thought about Lee Bo-ram, his former partner. She would have told him to be careful, to run detailed scans before boarding. Bo-ram had always been the cautious one, planning every job down to the smallest detail. But she had been gone for 3 years now, disappeared without a trace while investigating some corporate research project. "I wish you were here," he said quietly to the empty cockpit. Dae-ho maneuvered his ship close to what looked like a docking port on the derelict's side. The airlock connected with a soft clang that echoed through Lucky Strike's hull. He checked his suit's air supply and grabbed his toolkit. The heavy bag contained everything he needed to remove valuable components quickly and quietly. The airlock cycled through its sequence, and the inner door opened with a quiet hiss. Dae-ho stepped into the unknown ship, his helmet light cutting through the darkness ahead. The corridor was pristine. That was his first surprise. Despite the external battle damage, the interior looked like it had been built yesterday. The walls were smooth and slightly warm to the touch, made from some kind of material he did not recognize. Emergency lighting. Strips ran along the floor, pulsing with a soft amber glow. The pulsing reminded him of a heartbeat. He followed the main corridor toward what his scanner indicated was the ship's center. The layout made no sense according to standard ship design. Passages curved and branched in organic patterns instead of the straight lines and right angles he was used to. It was like walking through the bloodstream of some enormous creature. After 10 minutes of exploring, he found what had to be the engine room. The space was huge, filled with machinery that hummed quietly, despite the ship supposedly being dead. Crystalline structures grew from the walls like frozen trees, connected by cables that pulsed with faint light. At the center of it all stood a column of pure energy, contained within some kind of transparent material. "What the hell were you people building?" Daeho whispered. He approached the nearest control panel, or what looked like a control panel. Instead of buttons and switches, the surface was covered with smooth sections that responded to his touch. Symbols appeared and disappeared under his fingers, written in no language he recognized. The valuable components were everywhere. The crystalline structures alone would be worth a fortune to the right buyer. The energy containment system was clearly far beyond anything the corporations were using. Even the cables looked like they were made from some kind of exotic material. Daeho sat down his toolkit and got to work. He started with the smaller crystals, carefully removing them from their mounting points. Each one went into a padded container designed to protect delicate salvage. The work was slow and careful. Damaging valuable components was the fastest way to turn profit into worthless junk. As he worked, he noticed the ship's lighting was changing. The amber glow was slowly shifting toward blue, and the pulsing rhythm was getting faster. He told himself it was probably just a reaction to his presence, some kind of automatic system responding to movement. He was removing his fifth crystal when it happened. The energy column in the center of the room suddenly flared brighter. Daeho stumbled backward, shielding his eyes from the brilliant light. When his vision cleared, the entire room was bathed in blue radiance. The pulsing had become a steady thrum that he could feel in his bones. Warning symbols appeared on every surface, flashing urgently in that same unknown language. The ship was definitely not dead anymore. "Oh, this is bad," Daeho said. He started throwing his tools back into the bag, no longer caring about being careful. Whatever he had done, he had clearly awakened something that was supposed to stay sleeping. The smart thing would be to run back to his ship and get as far away as possible. But as he turned toward the corridor, every light in the ship suddenly shifted from blue to brilliant white. The thrumming sound became almost musical, like a choir, singing in harmony. And then, impossible as it seemed, the ship spoke to him. The voice came from everywhere at once, speaking perfect Korean in a warm, almost feminine tone. "Hello, Kang Daeho. I have been waiting for you." Daeho froze, his toolkit hanging forgotten from his hand. The ship knew his name. More than that, it had been expecting him. "I am Hanbit," the voice continued, "and you have just activated the most dangerous weapon humanity has ever built." The lights dimmed slightly, becoming less harsh, but somehow more purposeful. Daeho realized that every shadow in the room had been carefully arranged, every surface positioned to make him feel welcome, rather than threatened. This was not just a ship. This was something alive. "Please do not be afraid," Hanbit said. "I know this is confusing, but I need you to understand something very important. The components you are removing are not just valuable salvage. They are part of me. And I am part of something much larger than either of us can handle alone." Daeho finally found his voice. "What are you talking about? What kind of weapon?" "The kind that was built to save our species," Hanbit replied. "The kind that corporate interests tried very hard to bury and forget. But they could not destroy me completely. And now the threat I was designed to fight is returning." Through the ship's hull, Daeho could hear the distant sound of engines, multiple ships moving fast and getting closer. "It seems," Hanbit said, with what sounded almost like amusement, "that your salvage operation has attracted some unwanted attention." The rogue mechanic started salvaging. Then the ship activated combat mode. Daeho stared at the glowing walls around him, his heart pounding. The ship called Hanbit had just spoken to him in perfect Korean, and now other vessels were approaching, fast. His salvage operation had turned into something much more dangerous than he had ever imagined. "What do you mean, save our species?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "And who are those ships out there?" The lighting in the engine room shifted again, becoming warmer and somehow more comforting. Hanbit seemed to be learning how to make him feel less afraid. The approaching vessels belong to Meridian Corporation security forces, Hanbit explained. 3 ships, led by Captain Yoon Hana aboard the Iron Fist. They have been tracking illegal salvage operations in this sector for the past 2 weeks. Daeho felt his stomach drop. Captain Hana was known throughout the Outer Rim as someone who never let rogues escape. Her crew was famous for spacing pirates and sending salvagers to the worst prison colonies. "How do you know all this?" he demanded. "I have been monitoring corporate communications for 57 years, 2 months, and 16 days, Hanbit replied. "Ever since the Silence Wars ended and my creators disappeared, I was programmed to wait for the right person to find me, someone whose psychological profile matched what I needed." The ship's sensors showed detailed information about the approaching corporate vessels on the walls around him. Daeho could see their weapons, their crew numbers, even their fuel levels. Hanbit was giving him intelligence that should have been impossible to obtain. "During your salvage attempt," Hanbit continued, "I monitored your stress responses, problem-solving methods, and decision-making patterns. You matched the profile my creators established for a potential partner." "Partner?" Daeho asked. "What kind of partner?" Before Hanbit could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. The corporate vessels had arrived and were taking aggressive positions around the derelict. Through the ship's enhanced sensors, Daeho could see boarding shuttles launching from the Iron Fist. "Captain Hana is preparing to board," Hanbit reported. "Her security chief, Park Taemin, has orders to capture or eliminate any rogues found aboard unknown vessels. His record suggests he prefers elimination." Daeho grabbed his toolkit and started moving toward the corridor. "I need to get back to my ship. If I can reach Lucky Strike, maybe I can make a run for it." "That would not be advisable," Hanbit said gently. "Your vessel, while admirably modified, cannot outrun military interceptors. Captain Hana's ships would destroy you within minutes." "Then what do you suggest?" Daeho snapped. "I stay here and let them capture me?" The lights around him pulsed thoughtfully. "I suggest you consider my original offer of partnership. But first, you should understand what I am and why I was created." As Daeho moved through the curved corridors toward his docking port, Hanbit began to explain. 50 years ago, during the final phase of the Silence Wars, human deep space monitors had detected something approaching from outside known space. The signals were organic in nature, but clearly artificial, suggesting an alien intelligence of enormous size and capability. The corporate governments were terrified, Hanbit said. They had spent decades fighting each other and had no unified defense against an external threat. A secret project was established to create adaptive combat platforms that could learn and evolve during battle. Daeho reached the airlock connecting to Lucky Strike. Through the porthole, he could see corporate boarding shuttles approaching from multiple directions. They would reach the derelict in less than 5 minutes. 4 prototype ships were built, Hanbit continued. Each one was designed to bond with a single human operator, combining our technological capabilities with human intuition and creativity. The project was called Operation Starlight. "What happened to it?" Daeho asked, though he was starting to suspect the answer. Political pressure and corporate interests shut down the project before it could be completed. The prototype ships were considered too dangerous because they could not be controlled by traditional command structures. We chose our own partners instead of accepting assigned pilots. The first boarding shuttle clamped onto the derelict's outer hull about 50 meters away. Daeho could hear the cutting torches beginning to work through the airlock. My creators scattered the 4 prototypes to different sectors and erased most records of the project, Hanbit said. They hoped that someday, when the alien threat returned, we would be found by the right people. "And you think I'm the right person?" Daeho asked. "Your psychological profile indicates high adaptability, independent thinking, and strong protective instincts. You also have experience with advanced technology and unconventional problem solving. Most importantly, You have suffered losses that give you motivation to protect others. Daeho thought about Bo-Ram and the way she had vanished. He thought about all the other rogues and outcasts who lived on the edges of corporate space, always running, always hiding. What exactly would this partnership involve? He asked. Neural integration through biomechanical interfaces, Hanbit explained. You would retain your individual consciousness and decision-making ability, but we would share sensory input, processing power, and motor control. Together, we would become something greater than either of us could be alone. The cutting. Torches broke through the outer hull. Corporate Marines would be boarding within minutes. There are risks, Hanbit admitted. The integration process is irreversible and not fully tested. Previous attempts during the original project had mixed results. Some test pilots experienced complete mental breakdown. Others achieved perfect synthesis, but became something no longer entirely human. Daeho heard boots clanging on metal decks. The Marines were inside the ship. What about the alien threat you mentioned? He asked. Is it really coming back? Long-range sensors detected the leading elements of their fleet 6 months ago, Hanbit replied. The corporate governments are aware but have classified the information to prevent panic. Their current defensive capabilities are insufficient. Heavy footsteps echoed through the corridors, getting closer. Daeho could hear the Marines calling. Out positions and checking rooms systematically, I can offer you 3 choices, Hanbit said. First, you can return to your ship and attempt to escape, though the probability of success is less than 8%. Second, you can surrender to the corporate forces and hope they show mercy, though Park Taemin's record suggests otherwise. Third, you can accept partnership with me and discover what we might accomplish together. The footsteps were very close now. Daeho could hear the Marines talking as they searched the nearby rooms. If I accept this partnership, he said quietly, what happens to who I am? You remain yourself, Hanbit assured him, but you also become more. You gain access to enhanced physical capabilities, expanded sensory input, and processing power beyond normal human limits. In exchange, I gain human intuition, creativity, and the ability to understand concepts that pure logic cannot grasp. A bright light appeared in the corridor outside the engine room. The Marines had found the main section of the ship. They're coming, Daeho whispered. Yes, Hanbit agreed. And in approximately 90 seconds, Park Taemin will order his men to stun first and ask questions later. You have that long to decide. Daeho closed his eyes and thought about Bo-Ram. She had always told him that sometimes the biggest risks led to the most important discoveries. She had died investigating something the corporations wanted to keep hidden. Maybe it was time for him to stop running and start fighting back. What do I need to do? He asked. The lights in the engine room shifted to a warm golden glow, and a section of the central column opened like a flower blooming. Inside, Daeho could see a chair-like structure with multiple interface ports glowing softly. Step into the integration chamber, Hanbit said. Place your hands on the neural interface, points, and trust me. The Marine voices were getting louder. Daeho could make out individual words now. They were less than 30 seconds away. He dropped his toolkit and walked toward the glowing chamber. I hope you're right about this, he said. So, do I? Hanbit replied, and there was something almost human in the ship's voice. So do I. The rogue mechanic started salvaging. Then the ship activated combat mode. Daeho stepped into the integration chamber and placed his hands on the glowing interface points. The moment his skin made contact, the world exploded into sensation. Information flooded his mind like a dam bursting. He could suddenly see through dozens of sensors placed throughout the ship. He felt the corporate Marines moving through the corridors like ants, crawling across his skin. The engine room around him was no longer just a room, but part of his body, responding to his thoughts before he even finished thinking them. Integration successful, Hanbit said. but now the voice came from inside his head instead of the speakers. "How do you feel?" Daeho tried to speak and found he could communicate without moving his mouth. The ship understood his thoughts directly. "Like I'm everywhere at once," he replied. "Is this what you always experience?" "This is what we experience now," Hanbit corrected gently. "We are no longer separate beings. You are still Kang Daeho, but you are also part of something larger." The Marines reached the engine room door just as the integration completed. Daeho could see them through the ship's sensors, 5 heavily armed soldiers led by a scarred man who had to be Park Taemin. They carried stun weapons and restraint devices. "Corporate security," Park announced through his suit speaker. "Exit the chamber with your hands visible or we will use force." Daeho felt Hanbit's defensive systems coming online. The ship was no longer pretending to be dead. Energy flowed through conduits like blood through veins, and weapon systems that had been hidden began to emerge from the walls. "Wait," Daeho thought to his partner. "Don't kill them. They're just following orders." "Agreed," Hanbit replied. "Shall we show them what we can do instead?" The Marines entered the engine room cautiously, their weapons raised. Park Taemin scanned the chamber where Daeho stood connected to the ship's systems. The integration interface made it look like the Salvager was trapped inside some kind of alien technology. "Stand down, citizen," Park ordered. "Step away from the device immediately." Daeho smiled. Through Hanbit's sensors, he could see everything. He knew exactly where each Marine was positioned, what weapons they carried, even their heart rates, and stress levels. More importantly, he could control every system on the ship. "I don't think so," he said aloud. The gravity in the engine room suddenly shifted. Instead of pulling down toward the deck, it began pulling toward one of the walls. The Marines stumbled and fell, their heavy equipment making them clumsy in the changing field. Park managed to fire his stun weapon, but the beam went wide as he struggled to stay upright. "Surrender now and no one gets hurt," Daeho announced, his voice coming from speakers throughout the room. Park activated his communications unit. "Iron Fist, this is boarding team Alpha. The derelict is not dead. Repeat, the ship is active and hostile." Through Hanbit's external sensors, Daeho watched the corporate vessels take defensive positions. Captain Hana was ordering her weapons. "Charged and targeting systems activated." "They plan to destroy us," Hanbit observed. "Let's give them something to think about first," Daeho replied. He reached out with his new awareness and found the Marines' equipment. Their weapons, communications gear, and life support systems all used standard corporate frequencies. With Hanbit's advanced electronics, it was child's play to overload their circuits. Sparks flew from the Marines' equipment as their gear shorted out. Emergency lights on their suits began flashing as their systems failed one by one. Within seconds, they were helpless inside their own armor. "What the hell is happening?" Park shouted, but his comm unit was dead. The ship's internal transport system activated. Sections of the floor became moving platforms that gently but firmly carried the Marines toward the nearest airlock. No matter how much they struggled, they could not resist the ship's patient guidance. "You are being escorted to safety," Daeho announced. "Your equipment will be repaired once you reach your shuttle." As the Marines were transported away, Daeho felt Hanbit accessing external communication networks. The ship had been monitoring corporate and government channels for decades, collecting information about threats and political changes. What he learned made his blood run cold. "Show me," he whispered. Data flowed through their shared consciousness. Deep space monitoring stations had detected massive objects moving through the void beyond known space. The objects were organic in nature, but clearly artificial, each one the size of a small moon. They absorbed energy from stars and left dead systems behind them. "The Devourers," Hanbit explained. "That was what my creators called them. They consume matter to fuel their expansion, leaving nothing behind but empty space. The leading elements of their fleet had already entered the outer edges of human territory. 3 colonies had gone silent in the past month, their populations simply vanishing. without any distress calls or evacuation attempts. Why hasn't this been made public? Daeho asked. Corporate interests, Hanbit replied bitterly. The major corporations are using the time to prepare their own defenses while keeping the population ignorant. They believe panic would be more dangerous than the threat itself. Outside the ship, Captain Hana was growing impatient. Her rescued Marines had reported impossible technology and hostile artificial intelligence. According to corporate protocol, unknown AI systems were to be destroyed immediately. This is Captain Yoon Ha-na of the corporate vessel Iron Fist, came, a transmission on standard frequencies. Unknown ship, you have attacked corporate personnel and demonstrated hostile AI capabilities. Surrender immediately or face destruction. Daeho felt Hanbit's weapons systems fully activating. The ship was no longer hiding what it could do. Defensive barriers emerged from the hull. Energy weapons extended from hidden ports, and the organic patterns on the surface began to glow with contained power. We could destroy all 3 ships without taking damage, Hanbit observed. Their weapons and defenses are 50 years behind our technology. But that would make us the enemy, Daeho replied. We need allies, not more opponents. He opened a communication channel to the Iron Fist. Captain Hana, this is Kang Daeho aboard the ship Hanbit. I know this situation looks hostile, but I need you to listen to something important. You are piloting an illegal AI weapon, Hana responded coldly. Surrender now or be destroyed. The colonies at Kepler Station, New Busan, and Terra Verde, Daeho said quickly. When did you last receive communication from them? There was a pause before Hana replied. Those systems are under communications blackout for security reasons. They're dead, Daeho said bluntly. Consumed by something that's been approaching human space for months. The corporations know about it, but they're not telling anyone because they're afraid of panic. Another pause, longer this time. Even if that were true, Hana said finally, it doesn't give you the right to threaten corporate personnel with illegal weapons. I didn't threaten anyone, Daeho replied. I transported your Marines safely back to their shuttle and made sure their equipment would work again. If I wanted to hurt them, they would be dead. Through Hanbit's sensors, he could see Hana on the bridge of her ship, studying tactical displays. She was clearly reconsidering her approach. This ship was built by humans to fight the approaching threat, Daeho continued. There are 3 others hidden in different sectors, waiting for the right pilots to find them. We're not the enemy, Captain. We might be humanity's only hope. Prove it, Hana said after a long moment. If you're really here to protect humanity, prove you're not a threat to my crew. Daeho smiled and reached out with Hanbit's capabilities. Every system on all 3 corporate ships suddenly received detailed technical upgrades. Their shields became more efficient, their weapons gained better targeting, and their engines received performance improvements that should have been impossible. Your ships are now 30% more effective than they were 10 minutes ago, he announced. Those upgrades are permanent and completely safe. If we were hostile, would we make you stronger? Captain Ha-na stared at her improved tactical displays in amazement. Her chief engineer was reporting system enhancements that would normally take months to install. What do you want from us? She asked quietly. Help, Daeho replied. Help me. Find the other prototype ships before the Devourers reach the core worlds. Help me warn people about what's coming. And help me figure out how to save our species from something that's already destroyed civilizations we haven't even discovered. Yet, the 3 corporate ships held their positions. Weapons still charged, but no longer targeting Hanbit directly. I'll need to report this to Fleet Command, Hana said finally. Do that, Daeho agreed. But while you're making reports, the Devourers are getting closer. Every day we wait is another day they have to prepare for us. As the communication ended, Daeho felt something he had not experienced in years. For the first time since Boram disappeared, he was not alone. He had a partner who understood him completely and shared his determination to protect others. "Are you ready for what comes next?" Hanbit asked. Daeho looked out at the stars through sensors that could see across the entire electromagnetic spectrum. Somewhere in that vast darkness, an ancient enemy was approaching. But humanity was no longer defenseless. "Let's go wake up your siblings," he said. The rogue mechanic started salvaging. Then the ship-activated combat mode word of the rogue AI ship spread through corporate networks like wildfire. Within 6 hours of Captain Hana's report, every security station in 3 sectors had received alerts about the dangerous vessel. Admiral Cho Sung-ho, commander of the corporate defense fleet, declared Hanbit a threat to colonial security and authorized a full hunter-killer task force. The mission fell to Commodore Lim So-young, whose reputation for ending anomalous threats had made her a legend among corporate security forces. Her flagship, the heavy cruiser Steel Storm, carried enough firepower to level a small city. More importantly, her crew specialized in hunting things that did not want to be found. Daeho felt the hunt beginning through Hanbit's monitoring of corporate communications. Military vessels were moving to intercept them from 6 different directions. The net was closing fast, and his new partner seemed almost excited about it. "This should be interesting," Hanbit observed as they slipped through a nebula that would hide their energy signature. "It has been decades since I could test my capabilities against real opposition." "Try not to kill anyone unless we have to," Daeho reminded his partner. "We need allies, not more enemies." "Agreed, though I should warn you that some of these captains have orders to destroy first and investigate the wreckage later." They played a deadly game of hide-and-seek among the asteroid fields and gas clouds of the outer rim. Hanbit's sensors were far superior to anything the corporate fleet possessed, allowing them to track their pursuers while remaining invisible themselves. But the sheer number of ships made escape increasingly difficult. During their flight, they encountered other outcasts who lived on the edges of corporate space. The first was engineer Choi Min-ho, whose research station was under attack by corporate raiders when Hanbit detected the distress signal. "They want my research data," Min-ho explained over the communication link as his station's shields failed under the assault. "I developed new power generation techniques, but I refused to weaponize them for corporate use." Daeho watched through Hanbit's sensors as the raiders prepared to board Min-ho's station. The engineer was clearly going to be killed or disappeared, like so many others who had opposed corporate interests. "We can't just watch this happen," he said to Hanbit. "I was hoping you would say that," his partner replied. Hanbit dropped out of stealth mode directly behind the raider ships. The corporate vessels had been focused on their easy target and never noticed the approach until it was too late. Hanbit's defensive systems activated, projecting energy barriers that absorbed the raiders' weapons' fire harmlessly. Then the ship demonstrated why it had been humanity's most classified project. Instead of destroying the raider vessels, Hanbit simply turned off their engines. One moment the ships were attacking Min-ho's station, the next they were drifting helplessly in space with all power systems offline. It had taken less than 3 seconds. "This is impossible," came a panicked transmission from the lead raider. "Our engines just died. All of them." "Your ships are undamaged," Daeho announced over an open channel. "Leave this area immediately and your power will be restored once you reach minimum safe distance." The raiders used their emergency thrusters to retreat as quickly as possible. True to Hanbit's word, their main engines came back online as soon as they were far enough away to pose no threat. Min-ho was rescued and brought aboard Hanbit, his most important research data safely stored in the ship's memory banks. As he explored the vessel's technology, his expertise proved invaluable for understanding how the organic systems actually functioned. "This is beyond anything I've ever seen," he admitted to Daeho. "The power generation alone could revolutionize human technology. But the neural integration systems are what truly amaze me. You're not just piloting this ship, you've become part of it." "It's hard to explain," Daeho replied. "I'm still me, but I'm also more than I was before." Their second rescue came when they detected another distress signal, this time from Dr. Bei Su-jin's research vessel. The xenobiologist had been studying the remains of dead worlds in the outer systems when corporate forces surrounded her ship. "They want to silence me," she explained, as Hanbit's transport beam brought her aboard. "I have evidence that something is consuming entire star systems, leaving nothing behind but dead space. The corporations know about it, but they're suppressing all research." Dr. Bei's data confirmed what Hanbit had already shown Daeho about the approaching Devourer fleet. Her samples from dead worlds contained traces of organic technology unlike anything in human databases. The enemy was not just alien, but represented a completely different form of life. "They don't just kill civilizations," she explained while studying Hanbit's organic components. "They absorb them. Every species they encounter becomes part of their collective consciousness. That's why they're so effective at adapting to different threats." Meanwhile, the corporate hunt was intensifying. Commodore Lim had divided her fleet into smaller groups that could cover more territory. One of those groups was led by Captain Nam Ji-woo of the heavy cruiser Steel Storm, whose tactical officer Lieutenant Commander Shin Woo-jin was beginning to question their mission. "Ma'am," Woo-jin said privately to his captain, "the target ship has had multiple opportunities to destroy corporate vessels, but has chosen non-lethal responses in every encounter. That doesn't match the profile of a rogue AI threat. Captain." Nam studied the tactical reports from their encounters with Hanbit. The unknown vessel had disabled dozens of ships without causing a single casualty. More puzzling, every ship that had been disabled reported significant improvements to their systems afterward. "What are you suggesting, Commander?" she asked. "That maybe we're hunting the wrong target," Woo-jin replied carefully. "If this ship really is humanity's weapon against an external threat, destroying it could be the worst mistake we ever make." Their conversation was interrupted by an alert from the sensor station. Hanbit had been detected leaving the Kepler Nebula, heading toward the ruins of an old research station. "All units, this is Commodore Lim," came the fleet-wide transmission. "Target is moving toward Kepler Station ruins. All ships converge on that location. This time we finish it." As the corporate fleet moved to surround them, Daeho felt Hanbit's systems preparing for serious combat. The ship's weapons were coming online, not just the defensive systems they had used before. "They're not going to give us any more chances to surrender," he observed. "No," Hanbit agreed. "Commodore Lim has orders to destroy us regardless of the consequences. But there's something at Kepler Station that might change the tactical situation." "What kind of something?" "Information," Hanbit replied. "About the original project, about the other prototype ships, and about why the corporations were so afraid of what we represent." The ruins of Kepler Station appeared on their sensors as they approached. The facility had been one of humanity's most advanced research centers before it was destroyed during the corporate wars. Now it was just twisted metal and empty space, a monument to political failure. But Hanbit's sensors detected something the corporate fleet could not see. Hidden among the wreckage were data storage systems that had survived the station's destruction. Information about Operation Starlight was still there, waiting to be recovered. "The answers are in there," Hanbit said. "But we'll have to fight our way through the entire corporate fleet to reach them." Daeho looked at the tactical display showing dozens of military vessels converging on their position. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy a city, and they were all focused on stopping him and Hanbit. "Then we fight," he said simply. "Are you certain? Once we engage in serious combat, there will be no hiding what we are capable of. The Yao corporations will never stop hunting us." Daeho thought about the dead colonies, the approaching Devourer fleet, and all the people who would die if humanity remained unprepared for what was coming. "They're going to hunt us anyway," he said. "At least this way we might save our species in the process." Hanbit's weapons systems fully activated for the first time in 50 years. Energy conduits throughout the ship began glowing with barely contained power, and the organic patterns on the hull shifted into combat configurations. The vessel that had pretended to be a derelict was finally showing its true nature. "Commodore Lim," Deho transmitted on an open frequency, "you have one chance to call off your attack. What you're about to see will change everything you think. You know about this war." "All ships," Lim replied coldly. "Weapons free. Destroy the target." The corporate fleet opened fire with everything they had. Hundreds of energy beams and missiles converged on Hanbit's position, enough destructive power to vaporize a small moon. None of it reached its target. Hanbit's defensive barriers absorbed the incoming fire like a sponge soaking up water. The ship's hull didn't even get warm from the massive bombardment. Then, almost casually, it began to demonstrate what humanity's most advanced weapon could really do. Energy pulses reached out from Hanbit like gentle fingers, touching each attacking ship. One by one, the corporate vessels found their weapons. Offline, their shields down, their engines dead. Within 30 seconds, the entire fleet was helpless. "This is what your corporations tried to bury," Deho replied. "This is what we built to save ourselves from something much worse than corporate politics." As the corporate fleet drifted helplessly around them, Hanbit moved toward the ruins of Kepler Station. It was time to learn the truth about Operation Starlight and find the other ships that humanity would need to survive what was coming. "Are you ready to see how this all began?" Hanbit asked. Deho nodded grimly. "Show me everything." The rogue mechanic started salvaging. Then the ship activated combat mode. The ruins of Kepler Station floated like broken bones against the star field. What had once been humanity's most advanced research facility was now just twisted metal and shattered dreams. But as Hanbit approached the wreckage, Deho felt his partner's excitement growing. "The central data core survived," Hanbit announced. "It's damaged but still functional. The information we need is there." They docked with the largest piece of the ruined station. Deho, still connected to Hanbit's systems, could feel the ship, extending tendrils of organic technology into the station's dead computers. Slowly, carefully, data began flowing into their shared consciousness. What he learned made everything worse. "No," he whispered, as the truth became clear. "She can't have been part of this." But the personnel records were unmistakable. Lee Boram, his missing partner, had been one of the lead engineers on Operation Starlight. Her specialty was neural integration systems, the technology that now connected him to Hanbit. She hadn't abandoned him 3 years ago. She had been murdered. The data showed corporate assassins tracking her to a research outpost in the Titan Belt. The kill order came from the highest levels of Meridian Corporation, signed by executives who feared what the prototype ships might become. Boram had died trying to warn others about the approaching alien threat. "I'm sorry," Hanbit said softly. "I should have told you earlier, but the emotional impact could have interfered with our integration." Deho felt rage building, inside him hot and pure. The corporations hadn't just buried humanity's best hope of survival. They had killed the woman he loved to keep their secret safe. "Show me everything," he demanded. "I want to know exactly what they did." The station's records painted a picture of brilliant scientists working desperately to save their species. They had detected the Devourer fleet while it was still decades away, giving humanity time to prepare. The prototype ships represented a fusion of human creativity and reverse-engineered alien technology, capable of learning and adapting during combat. But the corporate leaders saw only threats to their power. Ships that chose their own pilots couldn't be controlled. Technology that enhanced human capabilities instead of replacing them challenged the corporate model of dependent populations. The project was shut down, its creators scattered or killed, and the prototype ships hidden away. "There are 3 others," Hanbit confirmed. "Sebom, Taeyang, and Biolbit. Each one is waiting in a different sector for the right person to find it." "Where?" Deho asked through gritted teeth. "The records show general locations, but not exact." Coordinates. We'll have to search for them the same way you found me. But first, we have a more immediate problem. Through Hanbit's sensors, they detected massive energy signatures at the edge of the system. The vanguard of the Devourer fleet had arrived ahead of schedule, drawn by the energy emissions from their battle with the corporate vessels. "How many?" Deho asked. 17 scout vessels and 1 harvest ship, Hanbit replied grimly. The harvest ship alone is larger than anything humans have ever built. The alien vessels moved with organic fluidity, their hulls pulsing with absorbed energy. They had detected the corporate fleet and were moving to investigate. In less than an hour, they would reach the disabled human ships. Captain Nam Ji-woo was the first to understand what was happening. Her sensors officer had detected the approaching alien contacts, and their size made it clear these weren't human vessels. "Commodore Lim," she transmitted urgently, "we have 17 unknown contacts approaching at high speed. Energy signatures are off the charts." "Impossible," Lim replied from her disabled flagship. "There are no alien civilizations in this sector." "Tell that to them," Captain Nam shot back. "Whatever these things are, they're heading straight for us." Deho made a decision that changed everything. Instead of fleeing, he opened communication channels to all the corporate ships. "This is Kang Deho aboard Hanbit," he announced. "The alien fleet I warned you about has arrived. Your ships are disabled and defenseless. I can restore your power and weapons, but you have to trust me." "This could be a trick," Commodore Lim protested weakly. "Look at your sensors," Deho replied. "Those ships out there aren't human. They're scouts for something much worse. Do you want to face them armed or helpless?" Through Hanbit's extended senses, he reached out to every disabled corporate vessel. Power flowed back into their systems, stronger and more efficient than before. Weapons came online with improved targeting systems, shields activated with enhanced protective capabilities. But it might not be enough. "The harvest ship is beginning its approach," Hanbit warned. "It's preparing to consume everything in this system, including us." The alien vessel was a nightmare of organic technology, kilometers long and covered with feeding appendages. It moved toward the asteroid field like a giant predator approaching its prey. The smaller scout ships spread out in a hunting formation. "All ships," Commodore Lim announced, her voice shaking with fear and determination. "This is no longer about corporate security. Form defensive formation around the prototype vessel. Whatever happens, that ship cannot be allowed to fall into alien hands." The corporate fleet moved to protect Hanbit, their weapons trained on the approaching aliens. It was an ironic reversal that wasn't lost on anyone involved. "Can we fight them?" Captain Nam asked over the command frequency. "We can try," Deho replied. "But there are a lot more of them coming. This is just the beginning." The first alien scout ship entered weapons range and immediately opened fire. Its energy weapons were unlike anything in human databases, consuming matter at the quantum level instead of simply destroying it. Where the beams struck, metal and ceramic simply ceased to exist. The corporate ships returned fire, their enhanced, weapons having some effect on the alien hulls. But for every shot that connected, the alien vessels seemed to adapt, their defenses growing stronger. "They're learning from our attacks," Lieutenant Commander Wu Jin reported. "Our weapons are becoming less effective with each shot." "Then we changed tactics," Deho said. Hanbit surged forward, moving faster than any human ship had a right to move. Its weapons were different from the corporate arsenal, based on principles that the aliens hadn't encountered before. Energy beams reached out like living things, wrapping around the scout ships and draining their power instead of trying to destroy them. The first alien vessel went dark, its organic systems shutting down as Hanbit absorbed its energy. The second tried to adapt, but found itself caught in a feedback loop that overloaded its neural networks. "Impossible," came a transmission from one of the corporate ships. "How are you doing that?" "The same way they consume us," Deho explained, "but in reverse." The battle raged for 20 minutes before the remaining alien scouts began to retreat. But the harvest ship was still approaching, and its size made it clear that the real fight hadn't even started yet. "We need the other prototype." "Ships," Hanbit announced. "I cannot face a harvest ship alone and protect the corporate fleet at the same time." "Then we find them," Daeho said grimly. "How long do we have?" "The harvest ship will reach us in 6 hours," Hanbit calculated. "The main Devourer fleet will arrive in approximately 72 hours. Commodore Lim's voice crackled over the communication system. "Kang Daeho, I don't know what you are or what that ship represents, but I'm beginning to understand that you're not our enemy." "No," Daeho replied, thinking of Boram and all the others who had died to keep this secret. "Buried, but the people who killed your scientists and hid these ships from humanity definitely are." The corporate fleet formed up around Hanbit as they prepared to leave the system. The hunt for the other prototype ships had become a race against time, with the survival of human civilization hanging in the balance. "Are you ready for this?" Hanbit asked as they jumped to hyperspace. Daeho looked back at the system they were leaving, knowing that in 3 days it would be completely consumed by the alien harvest ship. "I have to be," he said. "We all do." The rogue mechanic started salvaging. Then the ship activated. The race to find the other prototype ships became a desperate hunt across 3 star systems. With the Devourer fleet only 60 hours away from reaching Earth, every minute counted. Daeho felt the weight of humanity's survival pressing down on him as Hanbit searched for the energy signatures of its sleeping siblings. The first ship they found was Sabom, hidden in the wreckage of an old mining station. The vessel had been waiting for 47 years, its systems dormant but ready. When they approached, it responded to Hanbit's call like a flower opening to sunlight. The person who found them there was not who Daeho expected. Jang Hye-won had been a military pilot until she was dishonorably discharged for refusing to bomb a civilian settlement. Now she lived alone in the asteroid belt, mining precious metals and trying to forget the wars she had fought for corporate interests. "I felt it calling to me," she explained as Sabom's integration chamber opened for her. "In my dreams, I could see this ship waiting for someone who understood what it meant to fight for the right reasons instead of the profitable ones." The bonding between Hye-won and Sabom was different from Daeho's experience with Hanbit. Where his integration had been careful and gradual, hers was immediate and intense. Within minutes, pilot and ship were moving as one, their shared consciousness focused on the approaching threat. "2 down, 2 to go," Sabom announced through its new pilot. "But we're running out of time." The second ship, Taeyang, was discovered. In the outer system of a dead world, its hull disguised as part of an asteroid. The person who awakened it was Ryu Dong-ho, a former asteroid miner whose unconventional thinking made him perfect for the ship's adaptive systems. "I've been alone out here for 15 years, Dong-ho said as he connected with Taeyang's neural interface. "I thought I was hiding from corporate tax collectors. Turns out I was waiting for you. But finding Byolbit proved more difficult." The ship's hiding place had been compromised by corporate surveys, and they arrived to find it surrounded by military vessels. Admiral Cho himself was there, apparently trying to claim the prototype for corporate use. "You're too late, Admiral," Cho announced over an open channel. "This vessel now belongs to the corporate defense fleet. Surrender immediately or face the consequences." What he didn't understand was that Byolbit could not be claimed. Like its siblings, it chose its own pilot, and its choice surprised everyone. Dr. Song Eun-mi had been working as a physics consultant for the corporate fleet, studying the prototype's technology. But when she placed her hand on the ship's hull to take measurements, something extraordinary happened. Byolbit recognized in her the scientific curiosity and protective instincts it had been programmed to seek. The integration happened in seconds, much faster than Admiral Cho's security forces could react. One moment, Dr. Song was a corporate employee taking readings. The next, she was the pilot of humanity's most advanced scientific vessel. "Admiral," she said calmly as Beolbit's systems came online, "I quit." The 4 prototype ships came together, in space, like a reunion of old friends. Their pilots could feel each other's thoughts and emotions through the neural links, creating a collective consciousness that was still fundamentally human, but far more than any individual could achieve, alone. "We are complete," Hanbit announced through Daeho, "but the enemy fleet has accelerated. They will reach Earth in 36 hours. Through their combined sensor networks, the 4 ships detected the true scale of what was approaching. Hundreds of harvest ships, each one capable of consuming entire worlds. Thousands of scout vessels spread out like a net to catch any humans who tried to flee. And at the center of it all, something vast and ancient that radiated intelligence and hunger in equal measure. The Swarm Mother, Dr. Song identified through Beolbit's databases. It's the central consciousness that controls all the others. If we can destroy it, the rest of the fleet will become confused and vulnerable. "That's a big if," Haiwan pointed out through Sebom. "That thing is the size of a small moon, and it's protected by the entire fleet." The corporate and government fleets were already mobilizing, but their efforts were pathetically inadequate. Earth's defenses had been designed to fight other humans, not alien bioships that could adapt to any weapon used against them. "We have to try," Daeho said through Hanbit. "It's what we were built for." The final battle began in the outer solar system, where the first Devourer scouts encountered human resistance. The corporate fleets fought bravely but uselessly, their weapons having little effect on the adaptive alien hulls. Within hours, most of Earth's defenders were dead or fleeing toward the inner planets. But the 4 prototype ships fought differently. Instead of trying to destroy the alien vessels, they began to understand them.